Welcome back to the Tomato Seed to Harvest series. This is Growing Experience, and in the last episode I did a recap of the journey so far. Maybe check that out if you aren't up to date with where we're at in the series. But we got our cheap little greenhouse set up to deal with the last of the cold nights here in the Pacific Northwest, Zone 8B. And after those colder nights, it was time to start prepping our plants for going into the ground. In this video, I'll be going over how I prepare my young tomato plants for going into the ground after they've been hardened off and the weather in my area is past its sub 45 Fahrenheit nights. These tomato plants were very weak and on their last bit of life when I returned from my vacation. So it's nice to see how well they've recovered and grown since then. It was very close to being a series-ending disaster. About a week before transplant, I needed to prune all the lower branches of my tomato plants to avoid them being too close to the ground. If it rained real hard here, there's a chance that soil splash would infect the leaves with soil-borne diseases, and so it is good to clip the lowest branches of your young tomato plants a few days before transplant. Why a few days? Well, when you prune the branches, you are creating a wound in the stem, a wound which could allow soil-borne diseases to enter into the plant. A few days will allow the wound to scab over and be protected. After about a week, the last of the really cold nights was past us, and so I prepared the row I'm going to be transplanting these tomatoes into by setting up a simple drip hose, and then it was time to transplant. I started off by digging a hole slightly deeper than the height of the pot. I'll be burying these tomatoes a little deeper, but I'm not super worried about burying too much of the stem. An inch or two of buried stem is fine with me. I used to bury the plants all the way to the lowest branches, but I find it not as necessary now that I no longer water by hand. Tomatoes can root all along the stems, so burying some of the stem at transplant can be beneficial. It encourages a robust root system, makes the plant more drought resistant, and can help in certain situations where ground temperature is a concern. I'm going for a slightly less soil disruptive strategy this season, so I'll just bury the plants a little bit deeper than the height of the plug. But before we plant it out, we should throw a handful of organic granular into the hole we've dug here. I'm just going to be using a cheap all-purpose organic granular feed here, though you can use any organic granular with somewhat even spread of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This will help the plants get a steady feed after a few weeks of it breaking down. I'm going to put about a handful of this stuff into each plant and kind of mix it in with the soil at the bottom. Now I'm going to take our young plant, flip it over, put the stem between my fingers, and give the pot a squeeze or two to loosen the soil block a bit. If your starting mix is very loose, maybe give the plant a drink of water before trying this so the block doesn't crumble in your hand. It might make things easier for you. Like I said, I covered just a bit of the stem for some of those rooting benefits. This is a variety called Brandy Boy, and I'm excited for this one. It's a cross between Brandywine and some other variety. Perhaps Big Boy? Not exactly sure, but I grew this one last year and it had excellent flavor, like a Brandywine, but the fruits were more uniform and the yields were better. Overall, I'd say this variety is one I'll keep in my rotation for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be able to fit about 20 plants in this row. I'm spacing these tomatoes about 2 feet apart, and I plan on pruning them fairly aggressively to keep them under control. The tomatoes going into this row are all indeterminates, and I'll be making a new trellis system for them from rebar. Ideally, I would make a pergola-style system for them, but lumber is insanely expensive at the moment, so we will attempt to make something workable from rebar. I'll talk about that more in a future video in this series. Once again, we'll add in another handful of all-purpose organic granular feed. After doing this enough times, you'll be confident enough to pull these root balls out of the nursery pots and handle them without worrying too much. I remember how intimidated I was by pulling tomatoes from the pots and handling them. I just want to say, if you're a beginner, keep at it. Every failure teaches you something that helps you grow experience. I messed up a lot when I first started, and while it was discouraging, I'm super glad I stuck with it. Gardening is extremely fulfilling, and the satisfaction of finally succeeding where you failed in the past is nothing short of epic. On a completely unrelated note, here's a photo of my garden destroyer of a cat doing her best impression of a butterbean. This series has been a ton of fun to film and edit, and I'm learning so much about video production. I really do enjoy it, and I hope some of you out there enjoy the videos I put out. I'm still new to all of this, so it's nice when I get encouragement. Some of you out there are really supportive and it really does warm my heart. I appreciate every single one of you. I know I often run these clips where I'm doing something tedious at like 500x so you guys don't have to see the boring bits of work, but I felt like showing you guys just what it takes to get gardening tasks done. You know, cut out a bit of the movie magic and show you the hard work that actually goes into the gardening behind these videos. It's crazy to me how much I still learn every single day gardening, even after over a decade of doing it. It really is surprising. Gardening is one of the most complex things I've ever learned about. It's like peeling back an onion with seemingly infinite layers, and you think to yourself, surely this is the last layer, and it never is. On top of the complexity of it, it's incredibly therapeutic and peaceful. Good for the soul, some might say. And of course, the ultimate bounty being fresh, delicious homegrown produce grown with pride and love. Alright, I planted out the rest of these tomatoes off camera. Here are our hard-earned transplants. You can see they are spread out about 2 feet apart, and I've got the drip hose on, giving them their first drink in their new homes. Here's one of those things people don't often show about transplanting. This is bindweed roots, and as I was planting out my tomatoes, I kept running into webs of these roots. I tried to pull out as much of these roots as I could, and I'll stay on top of cutting back anything that pops above soil level to eventually starve out the roots of this bindweed. Now that that's done, I really need to find a home for about 20 more of these young tomato plants. I'm thinking of getting another fairly large raised bed. I'm aiming for about 40 plants this season. I'll be giving away the majority of the rest, of which I have maybe another 60. Last season I went overboard and had something like 100 plants, and it was back-breaking work, so I won't be making that mistake again. I really can't believe how far we've come in this series. We started out with this, just some seeds on a wet paper towel. I'm super glad I decided to document the process this season. Looking back on it, it was a really cool choice. Even seeing them go from seeds to little seedlings was already a cool thing to look back on. And then, of course, going on a 3-week vacation and hoping my plants survive. And coming home to them alive but not doing well was cool too. A lot less cool at first when I was worried the series was over. But looking back on it, even cooler because of the epic recovery. It's also kind of nice because I get to share some of the struggles of gardening too, not just the successes like most gardeners show. Here's a photo of what last season's tomato seedlings looked like. You can see they are a little stockier because they didn't go through the vacation stress this season's plants did. I'm really excited to get my hands on some homegrown tomatoes. Looking back at the harvests from a few seasons ago gets me even more hyped for some homegrown tomatoes, especially trying some of the new varieties. My favorite variety so far is these Sun Gold cherry tomatoes. They are very sweet and extremely flavorful. I could munch on these all day long. It's crazy how the plants take off and grow huge after being transplanted into the ground. I'll show you guys the progress of these transplants in a few weeks, and even though I know they'll grow a lot, I'll still be surprised. Hope you guys are as excited to see the growth as I am. If you guys have any suggestions for the series or comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear from you. This is part 11 of the series, and we still have a long way to go, so if you can think of something clever to include, please let me know. I'd also like to take a moment to thank everyone and remind you guys that I'll have my Amazon storefront linked in the description and pinned in the comments, in case you see something in my videos that you want to buy for yourself. My Amazon storefront contains the majority of the gardening-related products I use. This series will also document my improvement in the realm of video production, which I'm excited to look back on and see the growth of. This channel's name is Growing Experience for a reason. It reflects the intent to learn and grow and become wiser and more capable. I'm very happy that so many of you wonderful subscribers have decided to join in on the journey, and may we all grow experience together. I want to encourage everyone here to share their advice, tips, and suggestions so we could all learn from them. Here's a picture of my garden 3 or 4 seasons ago. Ha! Young gardener, you still have so much to learn, planting directly into clay soil. This was when I was still hand watering with a can, and my tomatoes were suffering from blossom end rot as a result of the uneven watering. Thank you all for watching, and if you made it to the end, extra thanks to you. I hope you enjoy the series and get something from it. I never imagined there'd be over 3,000 of you who join in on Growing Experience with me. I'll see you guys very soon. Have a wonderful day.